Hi, this is Graham here from Simplicity Coaching with a quick recap video of the Stress Less workshop. So when it comes down to it, stress is basically some version of one of these four things, which is either arguing with kind of what is, you're kind of taking reality and arguing it, something you want it to be different. It's when you're like here, but you want to be over there. Again, there's a discrepancy between how you view your life at the moment and how you expect and would want your life to be. And then you're focusing on the gap between your reality and that dream life. And that really, for a lot of people, is where the stress boils down to. And then it shows up as procrastination. It shows up as avoidance, worry, distractions, numbing and sedating an overthinking and overworked brain with social media or alcohol or shopping. Anything to kind of switch off the noise, as it were. It leads people to be snappy and with a short fuse and anger and frustrated, which eventually leads to emotional eating, either being inactive or overtraining and pushing their body too far and swinging the other way. It can cause people to withdraw from society and from relationships as they attempt to self-protect and to keep more stress, more noise, more problems away from themselves, so they actually withdraw and shut down, which results in no energy. And then because we're not using our energy or using our skills, we then can't switch our brain off, which leads to poor quality sleep. And because we're tired, we're indecisive. And then because we're snappy and short fused, we're overly critical and over judgmental. And there's a whole vicious circle that goes on. The key thing to remember is that all of these things, the emotional eating, the inactivity, overtraining, withdrawal, they are coping strategies. They are, at their very root, the intention is positive. It's to create a positive result, which, like I said before, is normally something like self-defense or self-protection. And then when we try and take those coping strategies away, we're just compounding the stress. And when we try and go on a diet or start exercising harder or stop exercising for some people, or man up and just get on with it, we're taking those coping strategies away. And what we really need to do is to get down to the real root cause and address the root, and then we can look at the coping strategies once they're not, like propping the person up. Ultimately, stress will show itself up as one or more of three reactions: fight, flight, and freeze. Now, all three things are designed to keep us safe to some degree. If we think we can win or we have no other option, we fight. Now, we generally have fight as a response when we think something is about to be taken away from us or we're going to be held back from achieving it. So it makes us angry. If we don't think we can win or we're in the wrong, we tend to want to run away. And if we can't make our minds up or we simply don't know, we go into a freeze mode and we can hide and shut things down. Now, if we were to run or fight, we would generally be healthier. It is our bodies doing what they're supposed to do. You see in the animal world, they run or they fight, they then calm down and everything's generally fine. But as human beings, we don't do that. We bite our tongue, we hold it in, we sit in stew, we bottle everything up. And that leads to us suppressing our emotions. Now, like a pressure cooker, eventually that pressure has to come out. Those emotions have to come out. And if we're suppressing things like anger, that can lead to things like headaches, migraines, and a lot of upper body tension, because you're getting your body ready to fight, but you're not doing anything with it. So your muscles in your upper body are ready to start swinging fists, but then you're not using it. So that energy just gets stored as tension. If we're suppressing flight feelings, we tend then to develop lower body issues, leg ache and pain. And if we suppress feelings of freeze or not being sure of something, we then tend to lose energy. We get stiffer and more inflexible. Remember, if we're going to freeze, ultimately our aim for survival is to hide. So we don't want to move. We don't want to have loads of energy. So if you find you're constantly tired, you can't get out of bed, and you just have no energy, That's a really classic symptom of a freeze stress response. So what we've got here on this diagram is kind of where we used to be and where we are now. So this yellow line down the bottom here, I hope you can see my cursor, is how the kind of animal world and how as humans we used to be. We'd be simmering along nice and calm, nice and relaxed. Something stressful would happen, we'd get attacked, there would be a threat or a problem, we'd react to it, we'd deal with it, we then return to normal, and then we carry on as we were. What's happening now is that because we are chronically stressed, we simmer along in this high level of stress. We buy a new pair of shoes, or you have some chocolate or some wine, you get a momentary drop in your stress levels, but then because we haven't addressed the real root cause of the stress, that stress level comes back up again, and then we continue on as we were. Now obviously this pattern then repeats itself. So you have a glass of wine, you're back to stressed again, you want to feel calm again, so then you have another glass of wine, and then it repeats. Now it's important that we understand we have two parts of our nervous system. There is a part of the nervous system called the sympathetic nervous system, and its job is to kind of ramp us up and to take us into this fight, flight or freeze reaction. It prepares our body to act externally on the world around us. So by doing that, it preps your muscles for action, it will send your blood pressure and heart rate up, and it will release hormones, notably adrenaline and cortisol, to really speed our systems up, and like we said before, get you ready to either have a fight, run away or hide. The other part is called the parasympathetic nervous system. Now this one brings us down, and that's why it's called the rest and digest system. It prepares your body to act internally, so it brings your energy and your focus away from your working muscles and your limbs into your digestive system, your gut, your lungs, your organs. So it's actually channeling your energy into yourself, and it allows your body to rest, recharge and recover. And as part of that, it will release hormones called serotonin and oxytocin. Now serotonin is our feel-good hormone, and oxytocin is a hormone that gets released when we have deep levels of trust, connection and bonding. So it makes you feel kind of all snuggly and warm and lovely. So we want to have more of those. Now for your body to change, we need to have these hormones. So for us to be the best version of ourselves, we need to spend more time in this parasympathetic or the rest and digest system. Very important we understand that. So the two parts, and this is the one that calms you down and allows your body to rest, recharge and recover. So how do we determine which system we're in? What determines whether we go up or we come down? And that's our brain. Or rather, it's one of our three brains. Now, really, there are three key parts to your brain. Now, as you can see in this diagram here, beautifully coloured, these are three distinct sections of your brain that develop both from an embryological perspective, so you growing up as a fetus through to baby, into a child, into an adult, and also as an evolutionary. They've developed as we have grown as a species. Now this first little bit here, this is your spinal cord, and it's leading up to your brainstem and something called the cerebellum. Now these parts of your brain, as we'll come on to later, are really concerned with your physical survival. Now this develops first. This is the part of your brain that controls your liver and your kidneys and whether your hair grows and how your gut functions. It's all the unconscious programming that you have no idea that's going on. It just happens. You don't have to think about your kidneys or your heart beating or your brain working or your toenails growing. It just happens. And it's that part of your brain that does it. We then develop and evolve this brown part here, and this is called the limbic system. This is where your emotions are and your memories and everything that you've learnt over the course of your life. This final blue bit is called the prefrontal cortex, and this is really where your intelligent, logical, rational and creative thinking happens. Now, the green bit here is very common with most living creatures. So lizards and reptiles have very, very similar structure here. And that's why we also nickname this part of the brain the reptile brain, because it has a similar structure and a similar function to reptiles. This brown bit here, we share, again, very, very similar characteristics with primates. So again, we nickname this one the chimp brain or the animal brain. And the blue brain, because it is uniquely human, we call that the human brain. And as we go on through today, you're going to see how they all have three very distinct roles in the way we think, the way we move, and the way we react and respond. So we're going to start with the brainstem, the green bit here, the kind of reptile cerebellum part. Now this bit, its sole job is concerned with physical safety. And it's the unconscious control of our body functions. Its job all day, every second of every day, is asking, am I safe? Am I physically safe where I am right now? If the answer is no, because there's a predator, there's a threat, there's something which can physically harm us, it switches on your sympathetic nervous system, the SNS, and then it will react by putting you into the fight, flight, or freeze mode. And it interacts with our environment and it makes those decisions based upon the information it is getting via our senses. And if we can give it better information, it gives us a better output. So we have this three-stage formula at the bottom here. So your input, the information that your brain receives determines the quality of the output that your brain gives you physically. So if you have better quality information coming in, you have better strength and flexibility coming out. Now, in the practical workshop, this is where we did a lot of the eye drills and the head shakes and the scratching, all the weird stuff. And we were basically working on giving your brain a better input. Pretty much all of you saw drastically different outputs. You were more flexible, you had more energy, everything felt looser and more mobile. So we control that by managing your sensory input. Now, things that we want to be doing are increasing the amount of oxygen that your body's taking in. So a full deep diaphragm breath. Remember, this is where you are really breathing deep enough that your belly is moving forwards when you breathe in. So you're really slowing things down, getting more oxygen into your body. And we're then taking it into a wider field of vision. So you're increasing and using your peripheral vision more. We're testing your balance, and your balance is controlled by your inner ear. This was the head shakes up and down. And when you have better balance, your body feels safer. If your balance is off, your risk of falling over and therefore sustaining an injury and therefore potentially dying goes up. So of course your body is going to be worried about that, and it's going to make you stressed as a way of coping. Also, with all of these things, if these things are compromised, your brain doesn't want your body taking chances and risks. So that's why you lose energy, you lose range of motion, you lose strength, so that you're in a much smaller kind of comfort zone. We need good touch, both from yourself and other people. It's very important for our brain to feel happy, and you need to move in all directions, forward, backwards, ups, down, side to side, round and round. Those of us who do exercise more, a lot of us get in the habit of just doing very straight lines. So you just walk forwards, or you run forwards, or you lift a weight up and down. We don't move enough in all directions. And we need regular breaks so that you're standing up, you're changing your viewpoint, you're changing your perspective, you're taking your eyes from a screen to the horizon, and you're really kind of using all your senses to the fullest. Things that will put your brain into that kind of sensory threat where you go into the stress mode. Chest breathing, so very short, narrow breathing. So if you're hunched over a computer a lot, your chest is going to be smaller. Therefore, your lungs can't expand as much. Your brain works on a two-way process. So when you are stressed, you breathe short and shallow. When you breathe short and shallow, your brain naturally assumes that you're stressed. So it's a very kind of two-way feedback mechanism. So by breathing slower and deeper, you're allowing your brain to kind of go, okay, look, everything must be fine. A narrow field of vision, so focusing on your phone or a tablet or a laptop where you have a very close focus point, will narrow down the information your brain is getting. If you spend all day sat down, you go from bed to the car to work to the car to the sofa to bed. There's no need for your balance then, because your body works on a use it or lose it principle. Your balance receptors start to switch off. which therefore makes your balance worse. Lack of physical touch. Again, your brain then doesn't know accurately where different parts of your body are. So for straight lines, being simple, being inactive, will take away your brain and body's need to kind of calibrate and to explore the world around us, all of which will make us more and more stressed. The limbic system, the brown part of your brain here, obviously it's not really brown, it's just been enhanced for viewing ease. The limbic system is concerned with emotional safety. So where the reptile brain is saying, right, am I physically safe? The chimp brain or the limbic system is asking, am I emotionally safe within my tribe, my community, my work, my team, my family? We are a very tribal species. We need to work as a team. And if we get rejected from that tribe theoretically, we're then isolated, we're on our own, we're much more vulnerable to attack. Remember, our brains and bodies haven't evolved that much in the past couple of thousand years. We're still a relatively young species, and we haven't evolved massively over that time. So we still react the same way. And if we're isolated, again, our chance of, like a chimp or a lion, if it gets isolated from its pack, it's now vulnerable to predators, and our brains react the same way. And that's by switching on the sympathetic nervous system and reacting with the fight, flight, freeze response. Now, this part of your brain interacts with your environment via our stories. Where the reptile brain is via our senses, this is now via our stories or our mindset, our inner monologue. If we can give our brain a better story, it gives a much better output. In this case, more confidence, more energy, brighter outlook, more positive outlook. So when we tell a better story that's based on reality, what we actually know, the truth, in a rational, sensible, intelligent way, our brains can give us a much better output. So what are our stories? What is the mindset? What does hold us back? Remember, everything in these two parts of the brains that we covered before is designed to keep us safe. So the typical stories, the obstacles that get in the way. Overwhelm, just having too much choice, too much stuff to do, too much noise, too much stimulation. Your brain can't cope. And so it will tend to shut down, which leads to, when we come back up to where we were earlier on, it leads to withdrawal. It leads to more social media as we try and numb and sedate and distract ourselves from all the noise. Beliefs, your belief about yourself and the world around you. If you see life as a competition, if that is your belief, you will then by default have to believe that there's always a winner and a loser. So if you're not winning, you must be losing. If your belief is that life is a collaboration and that people are here to help you and we're all trying to get to the same place, it takes away that competition. So your actual beliefs will shape your perspective on the world, and your perspective will shape your actions. So we can always go deeper into your beliefs. And if your life isn't where you want it to be, we come right back to the start. If you want to be here, if you're here but you want to be there, it's because your beliefs aren't matching your actions. Being stubborn, just not having the confidence to admit that you're wrong or you've made a mistake. Really, really common. So again, before we work on the top 10 tactics or the top 10 tips, we actually need to kind of work on, right, are you actually in a position where you can admit that you're wrong without that causing you more stress? Time management, actually having a plan, having some structure in place where you know what you're doing, when you're doing it and why you're doing it, and you're being productive rather than busy. A lot of us are busy without being productive. Now, when that happens, we have a lot of tasks that are open-ended, that haven't been finished. So rather than doing one thing really, really well, we do 5, 6 or more things half-heartedly and badly. And then because of that, we then can't switch off. Our brain is then going 1,000 miles an hour for things that we haven't done. Then we can't sleep. Then we wake up tired. Then the whole cycle repeats again. 2 things here for the A. Remember, everything has to form an acronym or it has to rhyme. So we're forming the word obstacles. I wanted to have both of these in. So avoidance is basically putting stuff off. Again, you know it needs to be done. You're just delaying, ripping off the band-aid, as it were. So yeah, when we put stuff off, that is going to happen. It's going to cause you stress because it's going to, as we come on later on, it's going to reduce this lack of trust in yourself. Your arousal levels basically refers to this state of your brain and the type of brain waves that your brain is being subjected to. Now, when we are stressed or energized or focused or calm or asleep, our brain goes through different frequencies and different brain waves. And often when we can't sleep, it's because we're trying to be calm, but our brain is over aroused. If we're trying to get ourselves going, we want to, but our brain can be under aroused. So we're looking in the arousal level section to get your brain into what we call peak or flow state. Comparison. This can be with a couple of things. It can often be comparison with other people. And again, if we come back to that whole tribal perspective, it's whether you're keeping up with the tribe or whether, often this isn't true, but you can see stuff on social media with people who apparently are doing so much better than you. Most of the time they're not. So we compare ourselves to other people. And we compare the worst of our lives with the best of theirs because of what we see on social media, that kind of perfect family picture where they look everybody happy, but what we don't know is that it took 25 attempts and 3 kids falling out to get that picture. So when we compare to other people, it's only ever going to cause us stress. Likewise, we often compare to different versions of ourselves. The version of myself that we used to be when we were 20 years younger. I used to be fit. I used to be slim. I used to be this. I used to be this. We're comparing to something that isn't real. Likewise, we compare to things that are in the future. I should be doing this by now. I should be there. I should have achieved this. Again, either way, you are arguing with something that isn't real. When we don't trust ourselves, we have a lack of trust in our ability to start something, finish something, be consistent with it, we are reducing levels of one of our key hormones. And if we come back to one of the key things earlier, the parasympathetic nervous system releases hormones called oxytocin and serotonin. Oxytocin is based around trust. When you are making promises but breaking promises to yourself, you are reducing the amount of oxytocin in your system. When you trust yourself more, you get more oxytocin. And when you have more oxytocin, you then don't need to then try and find it through food, shopping, and all those things we mentioned before. So actually, by building trust in yourself, by keeping your steps smaller, and by making and keeping smaller promises, you're building your levels of oxytocin. And that will ultimately reduce the stress and build your levels of happiness. Expectations in what other people should be doing is a big stress. This is where we kind of assume, we come back to the beliefs, when we dive down into it. If your expectations are causing you stress, it's probably because you have a belief at some level that everybody should think like you think. That's a big one to take on board. An expectation is where you are basing somebody's actions or lack of actions on what you would do in that situation because you are expecting them to think the same way you think. Again, that's only ever going to cause you problems. All right, self-sabotage is a big one. Now this one really comes down to, in fact, it gets its own slide. So self-sabotage is when we have a conflicting commitment with one or more of these key emotional needs. Now, every human on the planet needs these six things in varying order and varying amounts, but we all need them. When we don't have them, again, our brains think we're missing out and we're lacking something. So it's the need for certainty, the need to know, to be able to predict and to respond to things, the need to know that if you eat a certain food, it's going to make you feel a certain way. You need to know to a certain degree, if you add 1 to 1, you're going to get 2. Paradoxically, we also need variety, so we need to have things to increase our levels of interest and engagement, so we're not doing the same thing day in, day out. And this will actually then release another hormone called dopamine, which is released when we have novel experiences. But we need to have variety and certainty, often in equal amounts. We need to have a level of connection and love, both to ourselves and the people around us and the things we're doing. We need to have we need to know that we have an important role to play in our tribe, our group, our team, our community. Again, if we don't have that level of significance, remember, because we're tribal-based species, if we're not significant to the tribe, we could potentially be rejected. And if we're rejected, we're isolated, therefore we go into the stress system. We need to know that we're growing and we're showing some kind of growth in our physicality, in our emotional maturity, in our careers and relationships. We all need to be growing. And if we're stagnant, we're in that freeze mode, because your brain and body work on a two-way thing. If you're not growing, you're not developing, therefore you become stressed. And we need to have a high level of giving back and contributing. This is where being a nice person counts. So actually doing things to help other people just for the sake of it. This is kind of charitable deeds. So helping people out with no expectation of reward. You do it and it makes you feel good. You then release more serotonin and oxytocin, therefore you feel happier, you feel more relaxed, and then you get the knock-on effect of having more time, energy, confidence, whatever you want to do, because you're in a better place to do it. All this making sense so far? All right. So whether the trigger is physical or emotional, there are three causes of stress. Something happening too fast, something happening too slow, or something being unclear. If we think about a typical stress situation, that being road rage is the easiest one to understand. If somebody is driving really close up your bumper, they are moving too fast. Somebody driving too slow can cause a lot of frustration. So to the person behind you driving up your bumper, their perspective is that you're driving too slow. There's a mismatch in speed. Often the results we want are happening too slowly, or the changes we're trying to create are happening too quickly. Something with unclear intention. Back to the car, somebody cuts you up, doesn't indicate, you don't know what they're going to do, it's going to stress you out because they have unclear intentions. You're not sure what you're doing or why they're doing it. And this could be with your projects, with your kids. It's just this not being clear about what the outcome is likely to be or what they're trying to achieve. Now, if we know there are three causes of stress, and everything that stresses you out will fit nicely into one or more of these categories. There are only three solutions. It's either to speed ourselves up, slow ourselves down, or to get clarity by asking more questions and getting a real clear definition about what's going on. It makes sense, right? If something is happening too fast, if you want to deal with the stress, you could learn how to speed yourself up. If things are happening too slow, you can slow yourself down to match the pace. There's no point getting angry with the person who you think is driving too slow and driving unsafe. You need to slow your own speed down to match. There are only three stressful situations as well. And this is your business, somebody else's business, or the world's business. Now, your business is things that you have a direct influence over, things that directly impact and affect you. Somebody else is things that directly impact and influence somebody else. And then the world's business is things like traffic, politics, the weather, things that no matter how stressed or uptight or angry you get, there isn't going to be an immediate change. So the only person that you're hurting in that situation is you. It won't change it. There are situations where actually, you know what, getting angry, if it's your business, it can result in a positive outcome. If you're using that anger constructively and in a controlled way, it can be very, very productive. So again, if we know there's only three stressful situations, there are only three solutions. If it's your business, then take action and be proactive yourself. Stop waiting for someone to rescue you. Go and actually figure out what the problem is, what the possible solutions are, and then which one you would prefer to do. And be really proactive. If it's somebody else's business, help them to be proactive, and this is important, if they give you permission to. There's nothing worse than somebody sticking their nose into your business. If somebody gives you permission to, then go right ahead. But do make sure that permission is explicit, that they have asked for help and they are open to you giving it. And if it's the world's business, well, decide whether your reaction will make a difference. If it's chucking down the rain, me getting uptight and angry isn't going to stop the rain. So we need to decide whether or not we can actually influence the outcome and the process. Okay, so we have 3 parts of our brain we need to understand. The reptile brain needs physical safety, the chimp brain needs emotional safety, and the human brain needs us to change and to grow. Remember, the human brain was that, it's blue, wasn't it, on the picture over here. So this is the thing that actually allows us to develop as people and to really be the best versions of us. Where are we? Lost track. Okay, now very importantly, if the animal brains aren't happy, if the chimp or the reptile brains aren't happy, the human doesn't get a chance. Our survival and our safety will always be more important than our needs to change and to grow. It's always more important for us to survive than it is for us to thrive. So if you think about it like the 3 bears, or like a big brother, little brother, and medium brother, the reptile brain is the most dominant part of our brain system. If it's not happy, that will run the show. That will lead your decisions and your reactions. You need to get physically safe. If that one's happy, it kind of think about it like it's going to hibernate and it's going to go to sleep and it's going to be happy. If your chimp brain doesn't have emotional safety, again, it will fight, flight, or freeze. But if it is happy, again, that will hibernate and you are left with your human brain in charge. So that you have 3 brains. You have a human, you have a chimp, you have a reptile that can and do interchange who's running the show at any one point. Likewise, so does everybody else. So in any communication situation, we can be human to human. You can have 2 humans having a rational, constructive, proactive, positive interaction, and everything is great. If you have 2 chimps, 2 people who do not feel emotionally safe with each other, good luck with that one. They're both going to be easily triggered. They're both going to have their own safety in mind, and this isn't going to end well. Likewise, if you've got 2 people who are in their reptile brain because they've both got backache or they've both got toothache, they're going to have a very, very short fuse and a very low level of tolerance to each other. So we want to be really focusing on, I'll say those 2, not good. We don't want to be working on those. If you are in chimp mode, your only objective is to get yourself human. If you are human, you can then communicate with a chimp. You can communicate with a reptile. What we don't want to do is to come down to this level and then try and communicate. Likewise, if you're a reptile and you're talking to someone who's human, this is going to make you feel pretty small. You're going to feel that this person here is talking down to you, maybe it's patronising you, or just simply doesn't get it or get you. And also as well, you can be a chimp talking to a reptile. So we have all these different communications. Now, if you know that you have physical safety issues, like a bad back or a bad knee, or they're in pain, they're not breathing, they're stressed, and you come down reptile to reptile, it's going to cause a flare-up. In our communication, we have to get ourselves human and then attempt to bring the other person up. If somebody is reptile, you cannot ration with them because their priority is to get physically safe. So they will not want to engage. They cannot think logically. Remember, logic, intelligence, rational thought is exclusively here. You cannot communicate with an angry reptile. It doesn't happen. You have to give them time, space to calm down and to allow themselves to come out of that threat response. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Your job is to be human and to have communications with other humans or people in their human brain. So here's a quick question. When I get home from work, who do I see first? Do I see my wife, my daughter, or my dog? Who gets my attention first? Now I asked this because about probably a year ago, my wife said to me, "You always go and see our dog and our daughter first, and I'm always the last to get your attention." And she was a little bit upset by it. And then I explained actually what my rationale was behind it. If I went to see her first, I'd be talking to her, but my daughter and my dog would be competing for our attention. So when I get home from work, I always see my dog first. I give him a minute or so of attention and play and touch. He can grab his ears and rub his belly. After a minute or so, he's happy. He's got what he needs. He said hello, and then he goes off and does dog things. That sounds wrong. He goes off and he goes back to playing with his ball or back to sleeping. He's had the attention he needs, and his needs have been satisfied. Then I spend time with my daughter, and we talk and we play and we interact. And again, for how long that takes, she's then happy, and then I can get to my wife uninterrupted and undistracted. If I went straight to my wife, I said my daughter would still need attention, my dog would still need attention. The quality of this communication up here wouldn't be very strong. The reason I'm saying this is that think about it like this. The dog relates to the reptile brain. The daughter relates to the chimp brain. The wife relates to the human brain. We have to satisfy physical needs first, emotional needs second, and then when they are both happy, we are then left with the human interaction. Alright, so the human brain is when we are most logical, most intelligent, creative and rational. And it's this part of your brain that knows what to do. So if you know how to eat properly, or you know how to exercise, or you know how to diet or lose weight or climb the career ladder, but you don't do it, it's because the human brain knows it, but the animal brains don't always want to do it because they're concerned with survival. So if you are one person that says, look, I know all this, I know what to do, but I can't seem to make myself do it, it's because your animal brains have a more pressing need. So how do we stay human? We need to balance three aspects of our personality. So introvert, extrovert. Now this is really to do with how we recharge our batteries. Now an introvert needs peace, quiet, solitude, and to be calm and direct their attention internally in order to recharge their batteries. An extrovert needs external stimulations, whether that's noise, people, TV, radio, music, things happening in the external world in order to charge their batteries. Neither are right or wrong. So we want to be kind of balancing ourselves kind of in the middle, where we're getting both time on our own to recharge, but also time with people to recharge. And that will allow our brain to come out of threat because we are satisfying all of our needs. We have a left and right part of our brain as well, so the left and right hemispheres. Now typically, the left brain is where our logic and our organisation and our things being in order sit. So left brain is very scientific, it's very right or wrong, it's very structured, it's very not rigid, but it has to be in a certain order. It's kind of A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the left brain. It likes spreadsheets, it likes things being organised and in place. The right brain is more artistic, so it likes creativity, it likes a bit of mess, it likes things to be big and expressive. So again, balancing off those two hemispheres by having equal, as much as we can, amounts of both really helps us stay human and balance our energy. So if you spend all day on spreadsheets and having to be structured and disciplined at work, then it would serve you well in your recreation time to do more expressive, creative things. And vice versa, if you're a more creative, artistic kind of person at work, then your recreation time would probably be better served being a bit more disciplined, maybe choosing things like martial arts, where it's very kind of structured and pattern orientated for your recreation. But we need to be thinking balance between these things. Masculine and feminine energy is about giving or receiving. So me talking now is me putting energy out into the world. So it's a very masculine form of energy. You listening is a very feminine response. Okay, we need to be doing both in equal amounts. So if you're the sort of person who's always reading, always listening, always doing new courses, you're going to be out of alignment because you're going to be having way more feminine energy, taking more information in than you are putting stuff out. So the good antidote here is things like journaling, writing stuff down, keeping blogs, keeping diaries, actually creating something from nothing. What's really important is that actually, as a principle, we need to fit your own oxygen mask first. So you need to put your self-care at the top of the list. And so you're when you are the best version of you, you have more to give to others. And from that perspective, self-care does not mean selfish. All too often, when we look at our priorities, you've got your kids, you've got your partner, you've got your job, you've got your friends, you've got your family, then somewhere down the line, number 6 or 7 is you. Actually, for you to really thrive and to be able to give more, you need to be at the top. And then when you're at the top and you're looking after yourself, like I say, your cup is then full. There is more of you to then give to other people and you're able to help more people. Okay, when we are in our human brain, we have 3 happy hormones that course through our systems, and that's dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. And when we have all 3 of these things in our system, we don't need to revert to food, shopping, or those numbing behaviours in order to cope. So dopamine is pleasure seeking, it's goal getting, it's knowing what you're working towards, having a very specific outcome in mind. Serotonin is when you enjoy the process, you're enjoying life, you're enjoying your experience. And then oxytocin is when you feel bonded and connected and you have a high level of trust, both in yourself and other people. Now, because a lot of us don't trust ourselves and we don't really have high levels of trust, we therefore don't have much oxytocin in our system. If we're not having much fun and enjoyable experiences, we won't have high levels of serotonin. So we are then left to dopamine as our feel-good hormone. And this is where we always then need something new. It's the shiny object syndrome. And that is a classic example of dopamine. It's always the next thing. You buy a new pair of shoes and the next day you want another pair. Or you bounce from course to course, or you program to program, or you're always looking for something new to do. That's clearly dopamine in full action. Now we can manage this by understanding something called the reticular activating system, or the RAS. And this is part of your brain that's sole job is to get evidence for what you tell it is important. If you're up a ladder and you hear the instruction, don't look down, your RAS hears and understands that looking down must be important. Likewise, if your diet strategy is don't eat cake, your RAS hears that cake is important, and so will point out every sweet thing in sight, every cake sale, every slightly sweet thing. Your brain will go, that's important, make sure you notice it. So it's much, much harder for you to avoid it. Therefore, it's vital, because this works on a two-way thing, that we give our brain positive and proactive instructions. So if you're up a ladder, make sure you look up. It's much more positive and proactive than don't look down. If you're trying to be on a diet and lose weight or to sort your food out, think about all the things that you want to be eating more of and focus on the proactive things that you can do, not the things that you're supposed to not do. You have to focus on the solution, not the problem. How do we keep track of this? So, we've already had the obstacles as one acronym, and this is now the essentials. So, tying everything up, right? What do we practically need to do to stay human more often? We need to have fun and enjoyment on a daily basis. Now, whether this is connecting with friends or watching funny videos on YouTube, anything that makes you smile and laugh and feel lighthearted is going to give you more of those key hormones that you want. We need to get good sleep. Ideally, sleep is between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Ideally. That's going to help our body rest and recharge and recover and be 8 hours in that parasympathetic nervous system. So that way you're going to wake up recharged and good to go. We need some structure. You need to have your day planned to a certain degree, so you know when your off time is, you know when your time to exercise is, you know what you have for lunch, you know when your meetings are, what project deadlines there are, and you are having a structure like a school. When kids go to school, they don't do the same lesson all day, and they don't just kind of go, right, what shall we do next? But adults in the workplace tend to do that. We tend to either stick to one project for the whole day and never vary it. Remember, our brain needs variety, right? But it also needs certainty. So just having a structure, planning your day out in alignment with your energy and your ups and downs. So, if you're really low in the afternoon, don't schedule meetings then. If you're most energized first thing in the morning and most creative, that's where you might want to do your projects and your report writing, where you can really just be productive and get on with stuff. But we need to have a structure that works for you. Your structure will determine your success. We need to exercise, and ideally exercise on a daily basis. Now, this doesn't have to be for long. You are way better off doing 5 minutes a day than an hour once a week. Way better off. You're building your oxytocin levels, you're getting hits of serotonin, and you're moving your body daily. It's daily practice of this. Let's say it doesn't have to be long. If you can only commit 5 minutes, commit to 5 minutes, but keep that promise. Nutrition, good stuff going in. Good vitamins, minerals, proteins, fats, carbohydrates, all good stuff going in. But then with that, minimizing things that are toxic to our system. So typically, sugar, processed food, caffeine, alcohol, wheat-based products, for a lot of people, act as a toxin. And to some levels can actually kind of, in essence, poison our systems. Now, if we are under physical threat, remember we go into the sympathetic stress, fight, flight, or freeze response. So again, it may well be that actually it's your food and your level of, for want of a better word, crap going in that is making you feel stressed. Integrity, doing what you say you're going to do and keeping the promises you make, especially to yourself. Being active and on the go, 10,000 or more steps a day, taking the stairs where you can, getting off your chair, moving around is going to help with your balance and your proprioceptive system, and get your body moving as it's supposed to do. Liquid hydration, water, 2 litres a day as a minimum, plus anything extra you have on top of that. And when we're hydrated, we think, move, and feel better. When we are, I think it's when we are 5% dehydrated, we lose 25% emotional, mental, and physical performance. So when you're thirsty, you've already down to 3/4 of your ability. So we need to make sure we're regularly drinking and keeping up our hydration levels. And we need to be switching off mentally and recharging. So not just stopping, but actually deliberately charging our brains back up again. We get stressed when we are out of alignment with who we see ourselves as and who we want to be. So we need to know our values, our principles, and what the best version of us is. So when you are fully functioning human, what do you like? Are you relaxed, open, light-hearted? What's the best version of you? Because that is the solution to this, is actually being very clearly defined about who you are as a person. And that is always to be in our human brain and our parasympathetic nervous system. Let's make it simple. What state am I in? Which nervous system? So when you feel yourself getting stressed, right, ask yourself, am I looking to fight, run away, or hide? And if you are one of those things, you are in your sympathetic stressed state. So the state you're in is sympathetic. What can you do with this? What can you do right now to make a difference? What actually is changeable? And if you can't change the situation, you can change your perspective on it. What's the minimum you can consistently do to move forward and build your self-trust? Actually identify what action you can proactively take. Is your language positive and proactive? Are you focusing on the problem or the solution? What are the logical layers? Now, a logical layer is the kind of previous step, it's backtracking. So the example I put here, I'm tired because I went to bed late. I went to bed late because I was checking my emails late, and what I read stressed me out. I was checking my emails late because I wasn't productive at the office today, so I felt I had to do more. I wasn't productive because I didn't structure my day. So you can see now already that without changing the structure, this person is still going to go to bed late. If they keep structuring their day in the same way, they're going to keep being unproductive, keep checking their emails late, keep going to bed late, and keep being tired all the time. So we need to actually kind of go into structure, but we can go deeper than that. I didn't structure my day because I have too much to do. So I've just got too many plates spinning. I have too much to do because I don't have the confidence to say no or ask for help. So actually for this person, it's not about going to bed earlier or looking at their sleep patterns. It's to work on their confidence to say no and put boundaries in place. Do you see how that makes sense? It's a logical layer. When they have more confidence to say no, they'll have less to do because they have boundaries in place that people stick to. When they have boundaries, they'll have structure. When they have structure, they'll feel more productive. When they feel more productive, they can switch off later at night, which means they don't have to check their emails. They're not checking late, they're not stressing themselves out before bedtime, therefore they get better sleep. When they get better sleep, they're more productive at the office, and you get this nice upward cycle. Our experience and our environments. Again, think about using your senses here. So think about music, smells, changing your viewpoint, making sure that you're not looking at the same thing the whole time. Change where you are, move more, take more breaks. All those things will satisfy your reptile or your physical part of your brain. What to do practically? Define the specific problem. Be very, very specific with what the problem is. Identify the real cause by referring back to the obstacles acronym. Overwhelm, belief, stubbornness. Go back to that and actually kind of go, right, what's the real problem? Define your key reaction. Are you fighting, running, or hiding? Address your physical needs first. Make sure you're breathing properly. Make sure you're using your senses. Make sure you're moving. Then address your emotional and conflicting needs. And this was your certainty, variety, connection, significance, growth, and contribution. Now you can influence all of those things and create all of those things. When you feel human, make your decisions based on your values and your principles that you've defined as the best version of you. And then finally, be proactive. Make the changes and stop waiting to be rescued. Stress will not sort itself out. You have to make the changes yourself and be proactive. All right, what next? Well, you can completely ignore this. You can discount and disregard it and keep doing things the way you've always done them. That's fine. If you're happy where you are, if everything stays the same, everything stays the same. You do have enough in this document, in this video, to go and apply things by yourself. You know where to look now. You know what the problems are, and there are loads of resources out there to help you. Or you can get help turn this into detailed, targeted, and practical strategies so that you can live life by your terms, chilled, relaxed, and stress-free. Whatever you decide is cool. And a big part of this is actually knowing what the best version of you is and then acting in alignment with it. If you're on number 3, then especially we're going to fast track you. We're going to help you and collaborate together to give you more time, energy, and effort. If this is something you want to do and you want to look at this further, I'm going to keep this brief. There's 3 options for you. We can work one-to-one. We don't have to be local with Skype and FaceTime and online video calls. We can be anywhere in the world, anytime, and work on this together. We work out a plan specifically and directed exactly at your needs and what you need to do and look at your stories. If that's not for you, there's an online program called the Simplicity Method. This is where we take a group of you. So it's the same kind of format, but it's now shared. So it's the shared program. Again, we can do this online, video calls, Skype calls. It's a way of doing it at a more cost-effective manner. It's the same program, but it's split between how many people we've got in the course. Or we have a 4-week program. So we don't want to commit to the full online program. There's a 4-week stress less specific problem. Now this is basically where we take everything we've covered today, but we go into it a lot deeper. So we give you some really practical examples about what you can do in the first 2 weeks. So it's everything we've gone through today, but at a much more comprehensive level. And then we get 2 weeks together to actually support you putting it into practice and actually kind of working out kinks in it and overcoming those obstacles and kind of giving you new ways and support to really put this into practice and to live these new habits. If any of those things appeal to you, give me a call. Click on these links here. The top link will take you to a little application form. It's just where you can give me a bit more detail about actually you, so that when we do chat, you can use that link there to schedule the time. We can hit the ground running. And if you're not really sure just yet, then come onto the Facebook group. It's called Be Fit-ish. It's people who want to be fit and healthy without being extreme. And the link is there for you to come on over and get a bit more of an idea about my approach and the way we go through stuff. And I say it's whatever is best for you. If you're not sure with it, give me a call anyway and we can get you some clarity. But the big thing is about you getting clear about either what to do or what not to do. Alright, I hope that was useful. I hope that gave you some really good stuff to take away with and to put into practice and to put into place straight away. Remember, be proactive. Things won't change on their own. You can make a difference and it is relatively straightforward and simple to create more time, more energy and confidence and to really ditch the stress. Alright, take care for now. Hopefully we'll speak very, very soon.